Hi, my name is Victor, and I'm a sixth grade math and science teacher in Lowell, Massachusetts, and a graduate student at Lesley University in Cambridge. Today, I'm going to talk about the lesson that I've put together that focuses on volume, area, surface area, and nets of three-dimensional figures. So this lesson is lined up with the Common Core standards for actually the entire geometry unit for sixth grade because it is a end of the unit lesson, meaning it is a project that I will have students working on for a period of 2 weeks. So just a little quick information about the assignment, about the lesson. It's called Building and City Creation. And what it focuses on is three-dimensional figures, more specifically prisms and pyramids for sixth graders. And it's the exploration of the volume area and surface area and nets of those types of figures. In this lesson, students will be asked to create their own building using a program called Tinkercad and eventually creating their own city called in Minecraft. Um, so just to start off, the actual project, the actual lesson. First, I'd like to talk about the routine that students have, and this is a daily routine that they have meaning every single day in class. The first thing that they do is they come in and they sit down and they write their homework in their agenda books. They have assigned seats in my classroom, and they complete what I call a journal question of the day. And again, this is a daily thing. And then they take a look at the daily agenda with the launch, the explore, and the summary that's usually posted on the board using the projector screen. Um, also, they usually work in groups for the launch portion of the lesson. So for this specific lesson, they would be sitting down in their groups and talking to their peers to recap what they have learned in this unit on geometry. Um, and then we would bring the conversation to the entire class, a whole class discussion on what the concepts are that we have learned in this unit. And then as a shift from this launch, I would introduce the Google Earth Pro to students, which is a program that allows you to take a look at any city around, any town or city around the world. And students would focus on Boston, Massachusetts, and look at some of the buildings in the financial district. As an introduction to the project, students would play around with that program and for the first day or two and focus on a few buildings on the financial district in Boston and try to find the volume and the area and the surface area of some of the buildings using that program, Google Earth Pro. Um, Also, they would explore the remaining resources that is on the Symbaloo that I will show you previously. And this would only be obviously after the Google Earth Pro exploration. And then I would introduce the actual project to the students, meaning I would explain to them that they will be required to create their own building using Tinkercad, um, and that building would need to be represented as a three-dimensional figure. So they would play around with pyramids and prisms and create their own building that way. And that will be a week-long project for them where they'll be working individually but also have peer feedback um, as they work on this project. In addition to creating their own building on Tinkercad, students will be required to transfer the building once it's finished to a program called Minecraft, um, which some students have already had the chance to play with it. And what they would do is they will create their own city on Minecraft using the buildings that they created. So they would, in addition to the buildings that the entire class created, They would also create streets and trees and street signs in order to create their own city in which they, as a class, would name it. Um, as they are working on their building, students would have directions um, to create their building for very specific uh, directions as a checklist. The first would be a brief description of their building, what they chose to use as far as which figures they chose to use, the height, the width, and the length of their building. The second would be their building's calculation. They would be required to find the volume and the surface area of their own building. And the third would be to create to represent the building using a net to number the faces and show all the faces and find the surface area of the entire building. The fourth thing would be to transfer the building into Minecraft and communicate with their peers in the classroom that are going to be in charge of the Minecraft about where to place their building. Also, I want to talk a little about the pacing and the checking in throughout the week. As students are working, this is more of an individual project, but they are allowed, and I would obviously encourage them to have peer feedback as they're working on this project. Uh, as a teacher, I would circulate the classroom and make sure that students are staying on track and using an observation sheet that I have uploaded onto my Prezi that I will show you pretty soon. I would make sure that students are on task, and I would assess their weekly work using that observation sheet. Um, by checking in with students, I would also be able to help not just all the students in the classroom, but those two specific students, Jimmy and Thomas, the students' profile that I have uploaded onto my Blend space that I will show you shortly, and make sure to meet any of the accommodations that I have set for those two students. Um, and then finally, it would be the final assessment, meaning I would have students using the rubric throughout the week. They would pass in their link to their building on Tinkercad, but also I would have the link to the city that they created on Minecraft, and I would assess students individually on the building that they have created, but also the presentation that students would at the very end of the project create using iMovie. Students would be required to create a little presentation just talking about their building and showing how they created their building and their building specifications, because at an event that we would have at the school, parents and peers from the school would be able to look at the building that the students created uh, on iMovie. So it would be a presentation for parents and peers to come and just take a look at the students' project, but also at the very end, take a look at the entire city that these students have created. So right now, I'm going to transition from um, this little presentation to my Blend space that I have created. So this is what it looks like when you go onto my Blend space. The first is the lesson abstract that I have uploaded on here, and it just gives you a quick little introduction, a quick little abstract about the lesson, as well as the Common Core standards that I am using for this project, and the Common Core standards for mathematical practices, the WIDA standards, as well as the content and language objectives that I have uploaded on here. The second thing that I have on here is a little quick Prezi that I have created that talks about the instructional and assessment strategies aligned to the principles of universal design for learning, and Hardiman's, 6 brain targets. And on this Prezi that I have created, students would be able to see, let me just quickly go through it, see some examples of what their project should look like. And there's also a few things for students to use, such as a concept map for this unit and an example of what a net should look like for their building. And these are just some examples of buildings that have been created on Tinkercad, just to give some students some idea, as well as actual cities that were created on Minecraft. And then going back here, number 3 is the student profile that I have uploaded for Jimmy, and let me scroll down. And obviously the accommodations that I have created for these 2 students, for Jimmy and Thomas. And the 4th thing that I have on here is the Symbaloo that I put together for students to use. And these are all the resources that students would use throughout this project. One being Google Earth Pro, Tinkercad, Minecraft, iMovie, also study.com and LearnZillion for any students that would like to revisit the information from this unit for finding the volume area, surface area of buildings, and also how to represent a three-dimensional figure using a net. And on the right side, I have some resources that would come handy for me as a teacher to just quickly revisit those concepts, perhaps before actually starting this lesson, this project, or a combination of before starting and throughout the project as well. And then finally, the fifth thing that I have uploaded onto my Blend Space is it's called Cram from cram.com. It works just like Quizlet. It's little flashcards on the vocab used throughout this unit, such as I'll give you a good one, prisms, which is a big thing we talk about in this unit. So this is what I have created for this lesson, and the sixth portion that would be uploaded on here would be this video that you should be able to see. So thank you for taking a look at my lesson and my Blend Space, and have a good one.